Alright, all you graveyard shift racers out there tonight, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's Stunts of the Week goes to none other than Let Fat Ger Bear with their said stunt Fire Tornado, and also goes to MM Chapin with his said stunt The Firefly. Now, the reason why in the world we decided to pick these two stunts, well, for one, anyone crazy enough to actually set themselves on fire while jumping off the top of Mount Chiliad definitely deserves an honorable mention during this show. And the reason why we picked the other stunt, anybody who can go into open traffic, hit a Bentley, and come out clean on the other side with at least 3 barrel rolls on an open street without hitting a single car or a traffic light definitely deserves a mention on this show as well, and proves how creative they are. And speaking of creativity, folks, I think it's time for us to get ready to rev our engines and see who was the most creative during this month of Indy-pendence as we get ready to go into a very special midweek month-ending edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Month. And the first track that we have up comes from the creator G-Nopa with his said track G Procopio Speedway. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track for this week, not only because it gave you the option of using not only motorcycles, sports classics, coupes, muscle sports, and even supercars if you're crazy enough, but it was also a very special street luge track that he was able to create within the mountains, which is unheard of. And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there, and this is of great importance, if you decide to race on this track with speed cars, make sure you use off-road tires during this said track. Because if you don't, let's just say there will be a high possibility if you try to take the end of the track to fly right off the track by slipping off this said track and losing this said race. So choose your tires wisely, choose your cars wisely, and most importantly, have fun. And the next track to make it in for this elite list for this month comes from the creator Folic_Star with his said track Up and Down #1. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track that I got a feeling might be featured during a track or a moment in Six Flags or any form of water park you could think of, even though the maestro told me that Six Flags was not a water park. Well, because it gives you an opportunity to use any sort of car you want to go down this giant oversized slide at least once, along with the other crazy vehicles they decide to include along with it. And the only tip of advice we have for you fans out there, for those who decide to go down this big oversized slide, be careful when you're going down it with the scooter, and most importantly with the makeshift street blazer during this said race. Because the second you lose control and just miss a bump or two, there will be a high possibility that you'll shift over to the right too far or to the left and just skid right off this track, costing you this very race. So like they would say in most moments, stay in your lane and you should be just fine. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator Buscapolos 1 with his said track Cunning Stunt Academy 3. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this crazy track filled with more tubes than your average screensaver from Windows 97 is not only because of that, but also due to the sheer insanity you can get into while racing inside of these tubes that does have objects inside of it as well. And the only tip of advice we have for you stunt fans out there for this said track is to watch out for the balls, 1, and 2, make sure you know which side is right side up as you make your way toward the last checkpoint near the finish line, cause that could be the difference between you winning and losing this said track. Cause if you go out of the tube sideways, you'll land sideways and you'll lose this race. Or if you decide to go for the good old corkscrew method, let's just say you'll end up like me and nose diving off the track itself. So make sure you know which way's up. Only advice we can give you for this one. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator Ep.268 with their said track, Project Zancudo. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this crazy off-the-wall type track, not only because it reminds us of the Rocket Garden from Freakstyle, but also because it gives you a chance to use a litany list of cool cars during the said track, with the exception of vans, utilities, and I do believe off-road vehicles as well. Yeah, according to the maestro it is. And the only tip of advice I have for you fans out there is make sure you pick a car fast enough to handle a couple of these wall rides and upshots that you will have to take during this said track. Cause if you don't, yeah, let's just say you'll come crashing back down to earth and you'll have more of a problem than Zancudo will ever have, like it says in the description of this track. And the last but not least track that made it in for this month comes from the creator Pt.4 with his said track, Whoa! And yeah, I did sound like a couple of the enemies that came from the game of Grand Theft Auto Online, but at the same time, it definitely perfectly describes how this track is. Just wow! And with all of the corkscrew and wall rides that you have to do during it, like I said before, wow! And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is definitely try this track out with the Osiris first before you decide to branch off into your supercar of choice, so you make sure you know where all the pitfalls and moments where you would fly off the track if you pick another car. And if you go outside of the Osiris, also as another tip, make sure you pick a car fast enough and has good enough handling to handle this said track as well. And you'll be able to win. Hopefully. And with that said, folks, wraps it up for another monthly edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Month. And with that, folks, we might as well head back into this music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with a special bonus part for Under the Radar right after this. So don't get lost in that madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned.